name is Nicole Wilson, and I'm here to present O Fortuna by Carmina Burana from my MUS200A class. This is from a Goliardic Latin poem called The Bold and Beautiful Music Analysis Database. The Goliards were a group of clergymen that wrote to make fun of the Bible, and its stories were protesting the contradictions within the churches at the time. At this point, when the song was written and when the poem was composed, the churches were fighting due to the Crusades, the battles to reclaim the land of Jerusalem in the Middle East. So it was a very raunchy poem. Karl Orff read it and he was inspired to put it to music. He put the poem to music in 1937 with a little assistance. The poem came from Carmina Burana, and Orff kept the name just to allow everybody to do research behind the song that he put music for with the poem. This way people could research and see that Carmina Burana was more than just a composition by Karl Orff himself. It came from a series of poems written by the Goliards. Carmina Burana was about issues faced today and included sex, drinking, gambling, fate, and fortune. So I put the lyrics on the left in Italian and English on the right. O fortune, like the moon, you are changeable, ever waxing and waning. Hateful life first oppresses and then soothes as fancy takes it. Poverty and power, it melts them like ice. Fate, monstrous and empty, you whirling wheel, you are malevolent. Well-being is vain and always fades to nothing. Shadowed and veiled, you plague me too. Now through the game, I bring my bear back to your villainy. Fate is against me, and health and virtue, driven on and weighted down, always enslaved. So at this hour, without delay, pluck the vibrating strings. Since fate strikes down the strong man, everyone weep with me. So that was the poem, and the lyrics are sung in Italian by the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra. And the meaning of the song is about fortune. Fortune as well as fate are always changing and spinning. It's going to change for better and for worse. And there's nothing to be done to change what is already set in motion. There are going to be ups and downs in your life, but as long as you continue to live, the wheel of fortune and fate will move too, for better or for worse. Basic information about the song. It's dynamic, it grows throughout the entire piece. There's harmony, it's harshly dissonant, the texture is homophonic. The rhythm is driving and its repeated pattern forms the spine of the music itself. The intro is forte, then it draws back, finally ending in a strong forte. The timbre has a prominent percussion piece, and the form is strophic. It has 3 large strophes dividing into 4 measure phrases. The brass creates a strong and steady deep beat driving the wheel forward, and it's a constant movement that you hear behind the piece, and that's supposed to represent the wheel of fortune and fate moving forward. The strings give motion to battle the dark noises of the brass instruments, but it adds tension to the music as well. And the original composition was written in the key of D minor. The D minor represents the negatives of fate, and Orff used a minor key to reflect that. And that came from aboutentertainment.com, a whole article dedicated to Karl Orff and all of his work. The vocals are homophonic, but mix in a monophonic texture. This blend, accompanied by ostinatos and cross rhythms, create the haunting chorus melody. So now, more basic information about the song. It was written for the flute, oboe, clarinet, bassoon, contrabassoon, horn, trumpet, trombone, tuba, timpani, cymbals, a SATB chorus, soprano, alto, tenor, bass, piano, violin, viola, cello, and a double bass. The contrabassoon is a larger and longer than a normal bassoon, and it's also an octave lower. The SATB chorus can be a mixed gender chorus, men and boys, or just 4 soloists. The double bass is the largest and lowest pitched bowed instrument in a modern symphony orchestra, and is normally 1 octave higher than the standard bass. According to ECUSD.org, which is a music database site dedicated to the 1930s music that was prosperous, other music at the time did not relate to what Karl Orff composed. The history of the 1930s, there was the stock crash in 1929, the Dust Bowl, which was a huge drought in the United States, and there were tons of agricultural failures. Musical movies that came out around the time were Porgy and Bess, Jeepers Creepers was a song from Going Places. There was folk music that was predominant. This Land is Your Land was written by Woody Guthrie. And during this time, Bing Crosby and Louis Armstrong were the big artists. Also in the same year that Carl Orff wrote this, Julie Garland sang Somewhere Over the Rainbow from The Wizard of Oz. So Carl Orff's song did not match anything that was going on at the time. It was big band jazz, smooth music, and his harsh, dissonant song did not match anything happening with the time. Pop performers in the 1930s included Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, and Billie Holiday. Like I said, the 1930s were the time of jazz. It was the swing era and big band. Po Fortuna did not fit with the music of that time at all. These were the most requested songs in the 1930s. I thought I would put these in here even if you don't quite know the songs themselves, just so you could see that you can tell Duke Ellington, obviously, he doesn't relate to Carl Orff at all. These are all swing songs for flappers that were performed in speakeasies. Carl Orff's music was not heard in any of these. Carl Orff himself was born July 10, 1985 in Munich. He had piano lessons at the age of 5 forced upon him by his mother. And as a teenager, he started reading romantic poems. And he thought, well, reading the romantic poems does nice, but what if I put it to music? What would that do? So his first composition was published in 1911. He won the Munich Music Prize for Carmina Burana in 1937, and unfortunately he died of cancer March 12 in 1982. He remarried 4 times. His 4 wives were Alice, Gertrude, Louise, and Elizalette. He joined the military in 1917 and almost died. And after all of this, he only had 1 child, Gudela Orff. Robert Shaw is the conductor that performed this piece for Carl Orff. He joined the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra August of 1967, and he's the first person to push colored players into an all-white orchestra. He was the one that brought everybody together in the music industry. He led only this orchestra. Many composers and many conductors had several orchestras throughout the world, but he was dedicated just to ASO. He began the ASO course shortly after desegregating the orchestra, and he died of stroke in January 12, 1999. The Atlanta Symphony Orchestra and Choir has been playing for 70 years as of 2015. They have 27 Grammy Awards for their recordings. They have partnered with Telarc for 32 years, which is the same label that Carl Orff used to produce Carmina Burana. And they opened a huge 12,000-seat amphitheater in 2008. The music of O Fortuna, the form is ABA, return, then coda. There's a staccato opening, switching to legato as we drop to the B section. Constant tempo from the start until the last 13 seconds of the song. The constant level changes going from forte to piano, and then they alternate between the two. same two pitches in the B section were heard, while the A section was full of harsh, rough sounds. The coda was very strong, resonating even after the last note is finished. Unity and contrast. The contrast is the variation and differences in a song, the tempo, the pitch, the texture, or the volume. The song dies off into a hushed whisper about halfway through, and then it suddenly rises high and loud to end with a strong vibrating coda. The unity is when all of the pieces in a song come together at once to make the pieces sound whole and complete, meaning each note is carefully chosen and not thrown together at random. Forms in the beginning and the end of this piece because of the repetitive sounds from both instrument and voice. I have to describe how it made me feel. It's a very haunting melody. It stays with you, and it makes me think of climactic points in movies. I automatically think of Megra and Hades because in the Disney movie version that I'm referencing, she sold her soul to Hades to save her boyfriend's life. He left her for some other woman, so she is now prisoner to Hades. So now she's stuck in this endless turmoil. She's stuck in this wheel with Hades for the rest of her life. It's a very passionate song, full of a sorrow-filled yet enriching lyrical composition. So then, it was used in other things besides concert performances. Several movies use this, including Excalibur, Jackass, Beowulf, Cheaper by the Dozen, G-Force, Breaking Dawn Part 2, and it's used in intense moments of fighting or impending failure for a movie point of view. When you're talking about television shows, it was used in How I Met Your Mother, Friends, The Big Bang Theory, used several times on Nickelodeon, Disney, and Cartoon Network, and they use it for comedy purposes, like whenever a character is about to drop something. Usually they slow down the scene and add in the music behind to create a hilarious situation. And commercials even use it to advertise products. The song catches you no matter what you're doing, and you pay attention to what's happening because it's such a strong, passionate song. So Oreo, H&R Block, Hershey's, and Pampers are examples of people that have used it for publicity. Here are my works cited. Any questions?